Sir, get your tail lights fixed. It's your last warning.
What's wrong with my taillights?
They're broken.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What the Hell Happened to Them? Dwayne The Rock Johnson saga. This week, of course, with me, as every week going forward in the foreseeable future, is my favorite co-host, Jolly Joe Vekeman.
I'm your only co-host.
Favorite co-host. And
okay.
You're both Joe.
Oh, okay. I like both.
Yes, you're both. And, of course, on the audio boards, we have Lev Van Rensselaer twisting those knobs and pushing up our levels. And, of course, our sponsor this week are Dog Pogs. That's right, folks. Pogs are back now with the minty fresh flavor of dog. Joe, what's our movie this week?
Walking Tall, 2004's Walking Tall. Not to be confused with the 1973 version, which I think The Rock was like a year old when that came out.
How the times have changed since he was one. All right.
Yeah, they remade the movie with him.
Yes, they did. Walking Tall, very good, 2004. Joe, give us a summary of the movie.
A former U.S. soldier returns to his hometown. To find it overrun by crime and corruption. Which prompts him to clean house. This sounds pretty familiar. The first 15 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh my God, am I just watching First Blood? And I was getting kind of pumped because I didn't remember this movie at all. And it's not First Blood. It's not First Blood at all. And I got sad.
Yeah, and also it takes way longer than those 15 minutes to get to that point of the movie. The point of the movie, which is to say, the movie you have just summarized to me.
Mm-hmm.
It probably takes like seemingly 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Here's what's crazy, Joe, is that it takes 40 minutes to get to the movie, and then the whole movie, despite the runtime of 86 minutes, is actually 71 minutes long.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I was waiting. That's the only thing I remember about this movie.
With 15 minutes of credits. It is an aggressively long credit sequence. And
they definitely,
So what happened was, like, they get to the shootout at the sheriff station, and I go, okay, finally, the movie's beginning. We spent a lot of time in a weird place. But then, at a certain point in the shooting of the film, I go, wait, is the movie ending now?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're that far in. And then he goes somewhere else to chase the bad guy, the main bad guy. And I go, okay, well, maybe there's going to be like a hunt to get to him. There's going to be like
a mill.
Yeah, maybe there's going to be there's like 10 more guys there and he has to take them on. No, it's just that guy alone in the mill for no reason. And then then it's like over. And I go, okay, well, that movie just sort of ended, that hour and a half sort of flew by. And then I went to pause it and I go, of course it felt like it was quick. There's 20 more minutes of movie left. There was so little they could do, which is odd because there's a whole courtroom thing that somehow only ends up being 5 minutes. With The Rock giving... I don't even
think it was 5 minutes. I think it was a lot
With
quicker.
The Rock giving sort of like the worst defense I've ever heard in a courtroom scene for a main character
he becomes his own lawyer.
Somehow it becomes inspiring, even though there's no legal evidence or ramifications at all. He basically bribes the jury. And then, it goes into an election. Here's election film... which they don't even do the election. He's like, I'm going to run for sheriff. And then the next scene, he is the sheriff.
The next scene, he is the sheriff.
Like, for a while.
Next scene, he is pulling the tape off of sheriff on his truck.
Like, it's crazy because the movie starts off and we're just sort of hanging out with The Rock. He's sort of hanging out with his family. He's playing football. He's walking through his town. So it's like, are we in like a weird sort of like rural Godard film? And then it's like, are we in this kind of courtroom drama? And then it's like, are we in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? And then it's like, are we in reverse Breaking Bad? Like, what does this movie want to be? And I think I figured out the tone sort of like early on in the film. And then Johnny Knoxville comes walking in. And I go, okay, maybe I don't know what this movie's going to do. Are we like a weird comedy with like this very dull beginning? And then it's not a comedy. But then occasionally they let Johnny Knoxville ad-lib like a montage sequence. So then I don't know what tone this movie is actually going for. The best part of the movie was that it was 71 minutes.
Yeah. The aggressive violence, though, where he just gets his whole chest torn up by like a razor blade. Yeah,
my thought there was like, guys, this is the friend of your boss. Why are you doing this? Just kick him out. Like, why do we have to go this far? And then that guy could be like, the bad guy could be like, hey, listen, my bad. You know, I'm really sorry that my guys took it too far. They're all fired. Why? You just fired the dealer. So I don't understand. Like, fire everybody. And then The Rock's like willing to sort of taking it very personally. Like, even if the guy fired all those dudes, like, I bet he would be mad about it. Even though there is a chance that he might not have known. I don't know. But also the bad guy, they clearly like I don't know who this actor is, but did they like is his hair naturally that bleached, or did they want to make like budget Patrick Wilson really douchey?
Yeah, no, Neil McDonough, he was in like a season of Justified. That's his hair. That he just
that's what he looks like. Okay, then it was good casting.
He's been in Justified. He was in the first Captain America. He's just like a that guy character actor.
Yeah, he's always that type of person.
Yeah. He can be a good like douchebag. Yeah. So I think it's wild how like long the opening credits are. To like you're just watching The Rock go through the town.
He sure does walk quite a bit.
That's like
it's like the opening of Nebraska. How much walking I'm watching.
Yeah, but like the economy of him walking like around, like just that runtime of him doing that compared to every other scene is just like, oh, so we're just doing like really quick cliff notes on this one scene. Like, oh, okay, he's gonna go to the casino. Okay, this is gonna be like a 3-minute scene. He's gonna bring his buds there and he's gonna start a fight, and that's it. And like it's over, and then it's on to the next big plot point. I don't know.
The casino, the casino felt like it had a lot because there's like a whole sequence, right? They have to enter, then they hang out with the bad guy. Mm-hmm. You know, then there's like a strip club thing. Then there's but what was weird was like, why are you front loading these scenes? It's probably not how you were advertising the film. It's not the log line of the film. We already had a really long football sequence for no reason, just to get us to like The Rock, even though his likability in this movie is as generic and boring as possible. You have this sort of drug thing with his son to set up a later thing, but we spent a lot of time there. We have this family dinner scene. And listen, if there was ever... All I've learned from movies in my life is that family dinner scenes are great places for lively expositional conversations to happen.
Dump the exposition.
It's like every indie film loves to do it there with the family. It was very prominent in that Joseph Gordon-Levitt film that he directed. It was like
Don John?
Yeah, Don John.
Oh, God.
Where, like, their relationship runs into trouble because he wants to clean and she wants to get a maid. What a weird thing but that's not sort of my rant this week. So, yeah, like, it's just, we spent way too much time on stuff that sort of didn't matter and wasn't really setting up anything you couldn't have generically or genre-wise set up much quicker. And then you have interesting stuff with this courtroom scene that you spend no time with.
Yeah.
Then you could do an interesting election thing that you spend no time with. And then everybody just shoots him up. But what's also weird is that The Rock, like the Rock has to fix this problem with the guy. The Rock goes once to the sheriff and then that's it. He doesn't try to go up to like a state agency or a federal agency for oversight. He, like, it's just like immediately like, okay, sheriff's not helping, time to destroy property. And I'm thinking, like, in 2020, after everything that's gone on, how does this character read now? This man who has to take, who you know, at first you're like, okay, you know, he's taken down corrupt cops. That might still play. But also it feels like he himself becomes a corrupt cop.
Yes, exactly.
Like
and then he's like, cops, that's a good show.
Yeah, like immediately he's breaking a guy's taillight, pulling him over for no reason.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I actually found something about that is 3% interesting.
Okay.
So I want to say it. So apparently when The Rock was shooting that scene, he was just supposed to pretend to break that taillight, and then he actually broke it.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to the director, and he's like, did we buy this $90,000 Porsche? And the director's like, now we did. Also, in that scene with Neil McDonough is Kobe Smulders, right?
Oh, that's his. But like in like a, but was she blonde? I thought she was blonde.
I think she was blonde.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, she's kind of unrecognizable to me, but yes, that's she's from How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, about 2 years later,
First
she would be in How I Met Your
role.
Mother.
No talking.
No, yeah, very unfortunate, but good for her. She made it work.
Yeah.
She parlayed it into TV and then into now better feature films. So
And Marvel films.
Yeah, I don't like them, but they certainly are better than this. And,
Yes.
and walks around intimidating wise with like a bat a bat made out of the plywood he beat the casino with.
Yeah, I know. And he's like it's in his truck, and it's like his prized possession now.
Yeah, and like then he just sort of pulls over that other guy and arrests him, and just, chainsaws his truck apart. Hires Johnny Knoxville of all people to be his deputy. I was expecting like all those friends from the football game, like he would muster, and then he'd have a posse. They go up against the bad guys' posse, but like. And like,
you really thought this on through.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it felt like there was more movie happening because I'm like, well, I don't think we're close to the end yet runtime-wise. It doesn't feel like enough time's passed. Maybe I was thrown off by your awkwardly long beginning. So, like, I thought they would shoot up the sheriff's place. He would get out of it. Then, like, he'd have to, like, round up more people to help, like a high noon kind of thing, but, like, everybody would help him maybe. And then, like, no, then the movie's just over.
Yep. This movie, I don't even know if there's that much to talk about this one. It's
so what? Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the 2020 lens should be like, oh, soldier returning from Iraq or Afghanistan probably has some PTSD, clearly has anger issues, and we're enabling him and putting him in a position of power rather than getting him the emotional help that he needs. Like, it's crazy. But, like, we're supposed to root for him and be like, yeah, get revenge.
Without the PTSD.
Yeah, but it's clearly there. And then, like, at the end, he's just like, oh, fine, because the town's been fixed. It's just sort of an odd film to sort of watch in sort of our, with the
And did you know it is
is
inspired by a true story?
Yeah, so that's the other thing. I'm like one, I felt like a lot of this has to be sort of exaggerated because this is sort of too bonkers crazy to be real. Like, how much of this is true, Joe?
I'm looking at that right now. Okay, so the original Walking Tall from 1973 was rated R, and it was 2 hours and 6 minutes long. And it's actually a very well-reviewed movie. Okay,
and then the WWE said, we could get by. We don't have that much money, so let's just make or like maybe the script was really long, maybe the action scenes were like crazy well described, and then they cut it all together and they're like, we don't have a lot of movie here. Let's get some pickups of walking and then credits guy, make this as long as possible, and then score guy, you're really going to earn your money. And I don't know if you pay attention to those credits, but one of them is The Rock's hairstylist. Joe, The Rock's hairstylist. Joe.
Yeah, he was going
He doesn't
bald.
have hair.
Yeah,
what are
he's
you
got no hair.
styling?
I actually didn't like his haircut in this. It was pretty bad.
And also there's also right underneath that, like, is The Rock's acting coach.
Yeah.
which was nice that they
so-
got for him.
So in wrestling, this is he was definitely shooting this in like, I don't know, probably mid 2003. Because this is his haircut when he came back at the beginning of 2003 in February to face Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan was still wrestling in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I don't have context. I don't know how old he is or when his era was.
Hogan was wrestling in the 70s and 80s.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Didn't he become a governor, or was that somebody else?
That's Jesse Ventura.
Okay.
One interesting fact about the original 1973 Walking Tall: the budget was $500,000.
Yep.
Which that's like probably small or whatever.
It's a
the
good,
box
good
office
budget.
was $40 million.
Yeah, I bet that. I don't know. I could see, especially in the 70s, I could see that movie sort of being inspiring. You're sort of following this Death Wish kind of mentality or Dirty Harry sort of thing. It feels like it fits in.
I don't know if we would have had time or whatever, but I wish we kind of like just to have a little bit of comparison, just because this one was so short. Maybe we should have watched the original. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and watch the original, and I'll try to give you a report for next time.
Yeah, like what scares me if this story is true, it just feels like I know those other cops probably were corrupt, but this guy also feels like he's fighting corruption with corruption, and I'm not sure, and he seems like sort of psychopathic to me. Like this man, like more attention should be paid to these people instead of sort of glorifying their wanton acts of destruction. In my mind, and maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I have sort of a very narrow view, but it's weird that we're galvanizing behind this person. Like I said, he bribes the jury. He's like, you acquit me. I'm gonna run for sheriff and get rid of that guy that we all don't like. And even the judge is like, you can't do this. Disregard that information. But clearly they don't, because that's his only defense.
Yeah. And they're just like, he's not guilty.
He's not guilty because we like him. Well, that's
and they beat him up.
Yeah, we feel bad for him. Look at what they did to his stomach.
I mean, they did scar him up pretty bad.
Yes, I know, but that wasn't what was on trial. He could have a different trial. This was a property damage trial.
Yeah, he broke a lot of people's faces and arms. So do you think so far in this miniseries what we're doing is The Rock is just being put into roles where he is allowed to be like a guy that has a lot of skills, like he's a Marine, or he's like a bounty hunter, or he's an ancient warrior.
They want to make him cool action guy. They put him in movies where there's a lot of action scenes, which is why it's weird that he was in this, that the WWE made this movie where he doesn't really do that except for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He is slowly improving in his acting, and maybe having the acting coach was good. Maybe being in 4 movies in 2 years was helpful to kind of get relaxed on set. He's still not great. A lot of things still reading is forced, but it is coming along since the days of The Mummy Returns with his bad pantomiming. So
I love how you finally leveled up The Mummy Returns instead of calling it The Mummy 2.
Yeah, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, these might be the longest credits in history. Are they, Joe? It was because I thought back to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which had 80,000 animators, and it's still a 6 or 7 minute sequence. It's half the length of this movie that had 20 people working on it. But I did find out that this movie taking place in Tennessee was mostly shot in Canada. Because when I think the Deep South, I think natural, lush Canadian landscape.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. I think it's just cheaper to shoot in Canada, right?
Oh, Steph, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of films do it. I don't blame them. But yeah, an odd film in this guy's oeuvre. Not his. It makes sense for The Rock. It just feels like a weird movie for the WWE to make. And I get it based on the log line, but then that wasn't the script that they wrote. It's just odd.
Yeah.
But maybe they wanted to feel realistic, so it's only a couple guys attacking him and he takes them all out pretty quickly. But it's just odd because a lot of this movie doesn't feel believable in the second half. And so, and if it is holy shit, we shouldn't be rewarding this. I don't know. I'm sort of going in circles here, but that's sort of how I feel on it.
Do you feel like if this were to come out now, it'd be just a direct to streaming or direct to DVD release?
Yeah, it feels like what they do now with Death Wish 6. And also, I don't think it's safe to make this movie now. Even Brooklyn Nine-Nine had to throw out the 4 scripts they had written over the summer because of everything going on with the police stuff. And they're like, we have to approach policing from a different viewpoint now. We have to be more sensitive. And like, they're just a sitcom of goofy, of goofy people. And they're like how we have to show more respect for sort of the plight of what's happening now with regard to abuses of power. And so I just don't think you could make this movie now. Like, they've been trying to make a Three's Company movie for years, and you certainly couldn't make that movie now.
Three's Company movie?
Yeah. So
why?
I know. I don't know. So, like, it's just, like this movie you shouldn't be making now. It shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
You could do a movie like this, not based off a true story, with more sensitivity, but if you wanted to remake it and you wanted to keep true to the story, you couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, the one like sort of thing this has going for it, like, is The Rock is a Black and Samoan actor. Yeah,
it's helpful, and they make his father an African American, and I don't imagine that the actual person that this is based on was. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So kind of helpful, but it does not helpful that he's also corrupt. I don't know, like that sort of. He's
doing the exact same thing that they're doing.
Yeah,
pretty much.
but like he's doing what we agree with and fighting for the small town. That
do you think he's like a Robin Hood?
I mean, I don't think we should be galvanizing Robin Hood either. Like, I just don't think it's. I don't know. I just don't think it's the right sort of approach, and it feels sort of hypocritical when we do things like that. And I don't know. Maybe I value integrity too highly. Maybe I'm in a position where I have that luxury and security to be able to feel that way about it. But like, that's my approach to it. Is that, I don't know, fighting fire with fire just sort of makes a bigger fire, in my opinion, and sort of adds to the system. And all you're really changing is like who's in power, but those control structures are still there. So we haven't really had a net positive. Just the people who were oppressed are now oppressing, and they're like, woo! So like, but like nothing has really changed.
Yeah. I don't think they were like, oh, well, we're going to really be very careful in telling the story.
No, in 2004, you wouldn't. And I don't blame them for not doing it. It just was sort of odd watching it now. If we'd watched it last year, I would have had a different rant about this film. But watching it this year, it just feels oddly topical in sort of the wackiness of what it's sort of, what it wants us to root for. It was just like in the last movie where they wanted us to root for The Rock shooting people, where all movie his arc is like trying to avoid it, but like the completion of his arc is that he mans up and shoots people, and we're like, woo, yeah, you kill those characters that don't have names, and thus they're expendable. Woohoo! Like, it just feels like it's odd what we're rooting for early in The Rock's career. Excitement for this. And it doesn't age well.
Yeah, no, it does not age well, and it's just like a little bit more thought went into like what was going on, and
And the villain, clearly not likable, but like he has this odd line at the end where he's like, I'm gonna get a new favorite sound, the sound of, I don't know, me hitting you with an axe or something. And I thought,
that
like,
a direct quote.
Yeah. And I thought, like, well, what was your old favorite sound? Who has a favorite sound? Why bring that up? And by the way, his plan was to drop him, but like, none of them died from that fall. So like, why was that a real He's just going to walk back up and then get you again. I thought he was going to like fall into like a log chipper or something, but it just like fell down a chute. So like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what was the bad guy who's playing? Like, why didn't you just run away? Get out of his county. He already blew up your casino. You've been caught hiring men to kill a person. So, like, you're sort of done there. Like, get out.
Yeah. Well, this movie did get out. It was over in 73 minutes.
Yeah. So, what was the... did you know this movie has not one, but 2 sequels?
I did, because I looked it up. But the original had sequels too.
Oh, really? That's crazy. So, but like, what I loved about the sequels was, it's the first one, they're like, Kevin Sorbo stars in the sequel. And you're like, okay, fine. And then the second one was like, the second one, which by the way, came out in the exact same year as the first one.
Wow.
Both came out in like 2007. They said like Kevin Sorbo returns, and then it has like in parentheses like from what he's known for, and in this order, here's what he's known for: Walking Tall, The Payback, comma, Hercules the TV series. And I say, Hercules isn't first. He's more well known for this other movie. Clearly he was in it. You said Kevin Sorbo returns in the description. Why are you wasting space in the description on telling us that he was indeed in that movie? And then I thought, like, well, maybe he just wasn't in anything else notable. It was just those two things.
You know, I don't think I've ever had a thought of Kevin Sorbo before, but for some reason, I think I actually know what he looks like without looking him up.
I mean, I don't know. Did you ever watch any of that Hercules show?
I've never seen that Hercules show, and I've never seen the sequels to
I weirdly just saw, not just, but maybe a month ago, saw him in a clip from Dharma and Greg.
Oh.
And then a number of years ago, saw him in that odd God's Not Dead movie where he was the antagonist.
Did you ever see God's Not Dead 2?
They made a sequel?
Yes, it's called God's Not Dead 2.
Oh, my goodness.
They should have called it God's Still Not Dead.
Just when you think God's down, they pull him back in.
Yeah, that's the tagline.
All right, give me some box office.
April 2nd, 2004, this movie debuted at the box office to number 2.
Okay, what was number 1?
I believe it was Hellboy. The first Hellboy with Ron Perlman.
Okay.
Came out at the same time, same week. Hellboy was $23 million. Walking Tall, $15 million.
Okay. For April?
Sure.
Did you say April?
April 2nd, 2004.
It's probably not bad for that time of year that time of year in that year.
Yeah.
Was Hellboy in its opening week too?
Yes.
Okay,
First
good.
weekend.
I would have felt worse for Walking Tall had it not been.
It's not really what you want for Dwayne. He was coming off another movie that didn't perform as well as he wanted to over here.
Like he's not sort of like a star in these movies. I don't know. They all feel geared towards the sort of the WWE crowd, and maybe that was they sort of wanted to kind of be narrow, and so I don't know. It makes sense at this point in his career.
So yeah, it had a $46 million budget.
Yep,
and it made $57 million overall. So
not too bad. Probably if it, P&A costs sort of add up, but
probably broke even.
It might have broke even or just fell a little short. But that's not good. Sort of two sort of not great hits for The Rock after kind of a hot start. I wonder if that affects his relationship with the WWE, or would they have kept him on if he hadn't sort of left and gone to do his own thing? Yeah,
I think this is like I was saying last week, I think this is the last movie he had with them for a little while.
Like, it feels sort of odd because he's barely in The Mummy Returns.
Yep.
The Scorpion King, I guess, was a hit enough, but sort of a very specific type of movie. And then these two movies sort of weren't sort of very successful. So it was weird that Hollywood was like, yes, we need more of him.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's going to try different avenues of genres. He's with our next one. He's doing Doom, which is like a video game adaptation.
Yeah, sort of maybe like, all right, let's get big action guy in here. He's a big name. And here we go.
Yeah. I've never seen Doom. Have you seen Doom? 2006 Doom?
I have not. No, I don't think I think I've only seen one The Rock movie.
You've never seen a Fast and Furious either?
I have seen one or two of them, but they were all before movies before he came in. I didn't see them in theaters, but when I saw them, they were the ones he wasn't in yet.
Oh, okay. Are you going to watch the earlier ones before we get to his?
I did have that thought this week, but then I thought, like, I imagine I'll be able to follow.
Yeah, it actually is like a good starting point, the one that he's in.
Yeah, so I'm not sort of super eager to go back and watch the other ones. I already have a hard time fitting in movies, especially in my current schedule, that I do want to watch. So I just don't imagine I'm going to be like, what sort of dangling plot threads am I missing here? And not to belittle sort of the Fast and the Furious on that level, it's just not, I imagine, what they're going for.
Not really. I mean, they do tie things in, but I can fill you in anything, like little details.
Yeah, I imagine whatever I take away from the movie will not be affected by what came before. And quite frankly, I think that's sort of not a bad approach for a movie to take. If I think a movie, even a sequel, should sort of work on its own. I've sort of always felt that way.
Yeah.
And it's sort of
I
what's
agree.
been hard kind of watching the Marvel movies as I've sort of been usually forced into them is that I kind of come in at random spots and I go like, well, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on? And they're like, well, he almost died because of this. And so that's why he sort of feels like that. And I go, okay, well, some sort of explanation. They over-explain other things. So why not just sort of give me a one line there to kind of catch me up to speed? I would even take sort of like a mini recap at the beginning of the movie. That would be fine. TV shows do it. We don't complain. Marvel's just a really long TV show.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
So just fucking do that for me. But I guess like nobody watches like one movie. So, there you go.
Well, now there's like, what? There's like 20 something Marvel movies.
I don't know. I have
it's
no
daunting to anyone who's just starting.
Yeah.
A couple of other movies that were playing that weekend that came out. There's falling down to number 3 was last week's number 1, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
Oh, is this is the one with
that's the
Freddie
live action
Prinze
sequel.
Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar and
Yeah,
that guy
Matthew
from the
Lillard.
90s that was like all over the place. What was that guy? Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, Matthew Lillard.
And who was Velma?
Linda Cardellini from Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I mean, I remember Freaks and
He's
Geeks.
in a lot of Marvel movies now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good for her. Yeah, I never saw those movies. Did you see them? Or do you watch them now that you have children?
I saw the first Scooby-Doo in theaters.
Okay.
Because I was a big Scooby-Doo head, still am.
Okay.
And then, yes, I do show my children the Scooby-Doo movies. I haven't seen Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, but I'm sure one day I will see it. And I will enjoy it.
Yeah, when there's like a Scooby-Doo value pack at some point and you get like
we'll
5
do a Scooby-Doo marathon.
movies. Yeah, there you go.
That new Scoob movie, though, is trash.
All right,
That is bad.
All right,
That is a bad
for you
movie.
listeners out there, skip the new Scoob movie.
Yeah, I
It
watched
does
it.
not
with
have
my,
Joe's Scoob boob
my
seal of
stepdaughter.
approval.
No good. She didn't like it. She said she liked it, and then she was just like, yeah. And then we never watched it again, and I bought it for $25 because I'm like, yeah, she's probably going to want to watch it again. Never has ever asked to watch it again. Even though she was like, I loved it the first time. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, you definitely did. What didn't love it? My wallet.
We're sort of in an odd world where we talked about this a little bit in the Uncut Gem episodes. It's just sort of odd to me that a movie theater, which used to get $6 from a ticket at a movie theater, is now charging $20 to $30 for streaming.
Uh-huh.
What a giant price increase you have done, movie studios.
Yeah, well,
you were able to make it work on $6 a ticket, and now you think $30 is a reasonable inflation increase cost?
I think the only reason behind that is they figure a family's going to watch that movie because they did the same thing with Trolls World Tour.
I guess I could buy that, but also I feel like when we talked about this sort of in the off-air show, is like I think this is going to become a lot more normal, especially for a lot more of certain types of films. And if they're going to keep being $20, I think that's going to hurt a lot of the indie films that are going to be distributed in this model under the studio system.
Yeah, like a lot of smaller films, like First Cow. Poor First Cow.
Yeah, First Cow. Or like Antebellum's going to be $20, and I think Antebellum should be like a $10 film. I think that would help kind of broaden its reach.
I feel like, a lot more people would want to buy that if it was $10.
Yeah, and be like, well, we have to pay for the streaming costs, whatever. And then I say, like, well, what are we paying, the subscription fees for? Like, I am somebody is paying for Disney Plus to have the right to buy $30 Mulan. It just seems odd.
Yeah, I don't know about this whole subscription model thing. To get Mulan, you have to pay $30 on top of your Disney Plus subscription already. And then if you cancel your Disney Plus subscription, you lose your access to Mulan.
Yeah.
That you just paid $30 for.
I know. It's crazy.
So it's like if you want the movie and if you like the movie, they kind of like walked it back, but they were like a couple of weeks ago, they're like, we're not going to be releasing Disney like DVDs and Blu-rays anymore. We're just going to put everything on the streaming service.
What?
And I don't know if they're going to keep to that though. They did walk something back, like they're going to put Marvel movies out still. But
I mean, that's their business model is re-releasing those movies every 7 years to get a new generation indoctrinated. So
we're in a weird world right now with streaming.
I don't know. Every 7 years, do you then just highlight those films in your streaming algorithm somehow? Like, how do you? I don't know. Maybe you're just putting out so much content, like they don't have a choice for kids now. Like you have, since Disney owns half of all media now, they have to watch a Disney film growing up.
Stop impressing me.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then on top of all the Fox properties that they own, are they ever going to release those again too? You know,
it's unfortunate that physical media is going away. I mean, I know streaming services is getting better, but physical DVDs could get better. Blu-rays, I should say, could get better too. Like, I think you're just always going to have a better format if you don't have to stream it over the internet. Plus, it makes certain things available for people that can't afford internet or aren't in areas where internet's pretty available. And those areas are sort of few and far between in America, but there's a lot of places in the globe where they just don't have it. And I saw a map recently of which countries, what streaming services is most popular in which country. Spoiler, Netflix mostly. A couple places, Amazon Prime, and that's sort of it. But there are large black areas across the world where they just don't have stable internet access. And so if our whole movement now is getting more content out there for more people that's more diversified, we should have a way to easily get that content to people who kind of could be benefited by hearing these voices, and we're not, and we're making that harder to do. So why?
Because they don't care about the consumer. I don't know. It makes no sense because I feel like physical media would be a bigger profit than just maybe someone subscribing $7 to your subscription service. Yeah,
that. And I think I don't know. I'm not sure sort of how the data helps, but it's all the subscription models always felt weird because when Netflix makes a $30 million movie.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand how they
what's the business model beyond all right, we're getting $30 million worth of new subscription / people who would have canceled if we didn't put out this movie. But I just don't know how you make those numbers add up. I don't know what kind of accounting you have to do. I don't know what business equations kind of help you foresee that. Where a physical media is okay, people like this movie. They're now paying us $30 for it. And I know you have the production costs and the shipping costs added on to having a physical media where a streaming thing, you just sort of make a file and boom, there it is. But it just feels like it's harder to get back revenue on it. So I don't know. I would love to sort of find out how Netflix keeps it. But they hide their numbers streaming wise. They hide their financials. And I just imagine there's a very strong reason for why they're being so secretive. But somehow they're sort of spending crazy amounts of money. I just don't know where it's all coming from because it can't be from subscribers.
Do you think Netflix is more in debt than this country right now?
No.
Let me go down the list really quick of these other movies because this box office weekend is kind of crazy with the diversity of movies because we just don't have that anymore. So, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed was number 3. Number 4, Home on the Range, one of Disney's last hand-drawn animation movies.
Wait, I don't remember that movie at all. It doesn't even sound
Roseanne
familiar.
Barr plays a cow. That's all I know about it.
Okay, sure.
The Passion of the Christ, number 5.
Oh, this was that year. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I went to the theater when that movie was out to see something else, and I couldn't see it because I think it was rated R, so I wouldn't even be allowed to see it at the time. But this clearly stoned guy walked over, and he was like, "Hey," and he was in his 30s, so I'm 14, I'm kind of freaked out, and he's like, "Hey, you gonna go see that Jesus movie?" And I go, "No," and he's like, "Oh man, that shit they did to him. Awful." And then he walked away, and that story has always stuck with me.
It sounds terrifying. You sound like you were in a horror movie.
It wasn't great. The only thing that made it okay was that it was broad daylight, so I felt a little safe by that.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
The next one, The Prince and Me, which
I don't even know that one either.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to dive into that. The Lady Killers, which dropped down from number 2. Tom Hanks, Coen Brothers movie. That movie's bad. I watched that recently. Bad movie. Then Jersey Girl, Kevin Smith's movie that just bombed. These are all bombs, except for like the Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it sort of helped that The Rock was against the. I mean, it's April though, early April. Like that's what I don't know. That's the stuff that's
early
there.
April now. That's when they release like the Avengers and Fast and the Furious.
Now, but they only release at least the Avengers because they have 5 more to release in a year. You don't want to crowd them.
Yeah, I know it's bananas.
And like there's with Fast and Furious, there's like this odd arms race we're having with release weekends where everybody wants to sort of open up the summer blockbuster season, and we've somehow gotten pushed from June to May all the way to April to be like, aha, we're the first big budget action extravaganza, and then there's like 6 more months of the same effing movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Summer starts the first week in April. It's crazy. Also on this list, Dawn of the Dead, Taking Lives, The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. In its 10th week, it is still making like $3 million. That's so nice to hear.
Yep. It helped.
What's that?
It helped that it was sort of like this kind of critical success story, indie darling sort of thing. And I remember that Dawn of the Dead movie. I saw that when it came out. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I still like that, I think. The Zack Snyder's first movie.
Yeah, I don't think I would watch it again, but it seemed a fine entry into these. Was that the beginning of like the really fast zombies? Was that where that all started?
Yeah, he made the fast zombies.
Gotcha. And that's the whole weekend? Not bad.
That is the whole weekend. Weird.
Well, we sort of had an odd structure this week. We did a lot of our rants really early on.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have anywhere to go now, but I guess we'll just go to our last looks then. How's that sound, Joe?
Yeah, last looks. Let's go to last looks.
So,
do you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go first. That sounds good.
Oh, okay. The Rock should really slow down and think about his options, which is what I think he did next. Because we'll go into a little bit more next week because we're gonna skip over Be Cool because he's not really the star and his screen time is very limited. So we'll go into a little bit of that next week, but we'll mostly just stick to Doom. But yeah, he needs to like slow down and really consider what he wants his career to be. That's what I think he needs to think about it.
Well, I would have said if I were 2004 Patrick, but I guess with my current perspective is that The Rock, I don't know, maybe try to find a way to increase your range beyond sort of just like hulking action star. Because you can make a career out of it, like Schwarzenegger and Stallone have, but you could easily be sort of the next Dolph Lundgren. So find a way to kind of, maybe find more fertile territory to go in. But that Patrick would have been wrong because clearly he has made quite a success out of action stars. Even, what is he now, like in his 50s?
I think he might.
He's still making like more of these movies a year. Although I guess I will also say now he's also done more action comedies, which kind of helps branch things off.
Yeah, he started working with Kevin Hart.
Yeah, he started working with Kevin Hart all the time.
He's 48 years old. Yeah.
But he's still clearly he was one of those guys that could make a long career out of it. But what I guess is nice for The Rock now is that he's willing to work with other production studios and kind of help become more of a Hollywood persona than a WWE persona. And that, even if you stay in action films, certainly would give you more longevity in this career. And if you don't want to do your own stunts, which is the norm, would help sort of his body kind of keep good and ready to go. So those are my thoughts on that.
I agree with all of that. And I kind of glanced at his filmography, like his next few movies, and I am more excited now.
You feel like now that we're done with this WWE stuff, like where?
Yes, I feel like finally we've moved on, and we're gonna see him getting a little weirder.
Yeah, I will say
I haven't seen Doom, but like the one after Doom, it'll be fun.
Okay, I will say that of all the films we've watched so far, oddly enough, this one might be my favorite so far.
Wow.
Not that when I say don't take the connotation of favorite out of hand. Compared to the other ones, this is the one I didn't mind the most, might be the better way to phrase it. And there are 2 reasons for that. One, clearly the running time. Love it.
Yeah.
Love
you beat
that.
me to it.
2, Like, I seem to not like these family-friendly action comedies because, like, those were all felt the same to me. And, like, even just in the opening credits, like, it felt like this weight was off of it. And, like, that felt, at the very least, refreshing. Like, we're in something new. So maybe I just was sort of inundated in that other genre. And finally now we're in a movie like this. And so... I don't know, it just feels kind of easy and breezy to kind of get through, even though I had a ridiculously hard time figuring out the tone of this movie, just like I imagine the editor did. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dog Pogs, now available wherever Pogs are sold, which I imagine maybe is like a comic book shop or maybe Amazon, I don't know anymore. It's not 1993. So who knows? I'd like to thank, of course, our audio maven that you are craving, Lev Van Rensselaer, helping us out remotely, just like my remote co-host, Joe Vekeman. Joe, thanks for joining me this weekend.
Thank you.
And I am your host, Patrick Scala. You can find sort of these podcasts, my works, feature films, documentaries, short films, film essays, animated things, and a whole other bunch of stuff at quixoticunited.com and presumably social media with very similar names. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night.
Can I tell you what's been my difficulty this week?
Oh, yeah, go on.
Before we begin. Watching an episode of The Simpsons now that I have the Disney Plus through Dash. One of the episodes that Bart is dreaming of running away and hanging out in Utah, of all places. But like as he's imagining Utah, and then again later on when they drive to Utah, this like classical sort of score plays in the background. It's not sort of the traditional theme music that they use. And they've done this a few times, but I've always been able to place the songs because I have sort of a very strong classical background from my childhood because while other hip young 90s kids were listening to, I don't know, Snoop Dogg and the Backstreet Boys, I was into Dvorak and, you know, Bach and all those guys, Ravel and whatnot. So, you know, this song came out, I'm like, I know this song. Where do I know it from? Eventually it hit me. Of course, it's the Polovtsian dances. Here's the issue, though. Then I started listening to it on YouTube, and I like it a lot, but it's really hard to find a version that I can buy. MP3-wise. I don't need a full CD for this. I just want the MP3 of the song. It's from an opera, an unfinished opera about Prince Ivan, written by a composer who actually was a chemist and sort of started in Russia in the 1800s, sort of a lot of these foundations to help women learn science and technology things. And all of the composers at the time were like, dude, you're a really good composer. Just write music more. You're really good at it. And he's like, I'll get to it whenever. And then, of course, as he's in the middle of this opera that everybody's loving, he just dies suddenly. But anyway, the point of my story is I can't find a straight MP3 version of it. I can find MP3s of like little movements of the song, but they're all like 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I'm not paying $1.19 for 13 of those. That's ridiculous. But then it got to the point where I found some, but then it got to the point, and here's the thing about sort of classical music that's tricky, is that since we're sort of conducting them in modern times with modern bands, we can play around with tempo, you can play around with sort of the recording space. Sometimes people put in the opera singers and some versions don't have it. I found this version on YouTube that I really like that seems to be done by like a very young symphony, or maybe they're sort of like graduate level musicians. They sound really good. The tone or the pacing, the rhythm I really like, sort of how fast they're going. I like sort of the bravado of their brass. I wish I could find a version like that, because even if I find a straight 1 MP3 version of it for a reasonable price, it's not going to be that rhythm. First world problems, Joe, you know? Okay, are you ready to jump on in now that I've had my little rant?
I do want to tell you one quick story. story.
Okay, that sounds good.
Unless you looked at my letterbox yesterday.
I have not checked Letterboxd recently, no.
Well, let me tell you this story.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Well, yesterday I ventured back to the theater.
Again, okay.
I'm back in my habit.
Your Sister Act 2 back in the Abbott?
Yes.
Okay.
And mask on.
Great.
Told you no concessions, just mask as soon as I get in the building.
Yeah.
I mean, the mask is on before I go in the building. And I get my ticket, I sit down, and I don't move. I don't put the armrest down. I just sit and I'm watching the movie.
Very good.
Well, I went to go see The New Mutants yesterday.
I don't know what that is, but go on.
It is a movie that has been pushed and pulled from the schedule for almost 3 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it's an old 20th Century Fox property, now 20th Century Studios. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not,
recently.
but it makes sense if Disney owns it now.
Well, there's also a contract with from Fox with this movie that when they bought the Fox, like all the Fox properties, Fox said that this movie needed to go into the theaters. It could not just go straight to a streaming service.
Interesting. Okay.
So Disney's like, well, we got to dump it sometime.
They've picked a good place then. So
they dumped it during the second week of the reopening of the pandemic theaters.
So they think the movie isn't good, and so this is where they want to hide it.
Yeah, but then that's on top of like, yeah, I know the movie's probably not going to be good because it's been delayed so many times, but I'm a little intrigued that it's been pushed and pushed and pushed, and I'm like, okay, well, that's like my only interest to see how bad it is now. I wish I didn't care about these things. I wish I didn't. So I sat down. 5 minutes in, I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's not going to be too bad, because I was like, this is it has a lot of energy right at the top. Like the first 3 minutes, I'm like, what is happening? This is interesting. And then they started talking.
Oh, what's going on with the talking?
Because it just as soon as the main character really is alone and she's talking, it all falls apart. And anytime she interacts with any characters, it's just dead. There's no energy. There's nothing to this movie. The script is awful, and there are some terrible accent work.
Ooh.
There's a Russian accent that keeps going in and out from Anya Taylor-Joy.
Okay.
From the Witch.
The Witch?
The Witch.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And then Maisie Williams, or Massey Williams, whatever her name is. She's from Game of Thrones. She plays Arya.
Okay. I don't know, but go on.
Yeah. She is doing a Irish accent. And after about 10 minutes, she stops doing the Irish accent. And then Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things, I don't know if you've watched that one either.
You watched a little bit,
he's doing a really, really thick hillbilly accent. Really thick, really southern, just... And as the scenes go on, it gets thicker. He dials it up. And I'm like, wow. And... bad accents really, really take me out of a movie fast. I kind of just...
Yeah, the Irish accent thing reminds me of that time you saw that movie and they had wig issues. They didn't have a wig and then they needed to put a wig back on the actress. What was that movie?
What is this movie?
I don't know. I don't remember. You were telling me about it once on our train trip into Boston one day. One of the times we were going to see all those movies.
Is this the Danish girl?
No, I saw that movie. I didn't see this one. You had said, I don't know, I think they maybe had to do reshoots later on, but by then the woman had changed her hair completely, so they had to put a wig on.
Fantastic Four?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
The new Fantastic Four.
And you said the wig looked awful and noticeable, and that's what it reminds me of with this Irish accent that disappears at some point.
So on top of all that, 16 minutes into this movie, Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick, are you listening to me?
I'm listening. I'm here for you, Joe. 16
minutes into this movie, and I found that out because the movie theater manager had to come in and tell us after about 20 minutes of them, because the projector went down. 16 minutes in, died.
I was used to it when they were still showing film reels, but it seems odd that a digital projector would go down.
Digital. how does this happen? And it's a computer screen, and it just goes green. And I'm like, okay. So
Yeah.
and then like 30 seconds later, it starts back up, and we rewind 15 seconds.
Okay.
And then as soon as it was supposed to, like, as soon as the last time it went down right again. So we saw that same 15 seconds again.
I wonder if
this
that
happened
DCP
6 more times.
Yeah, I wonder if that DCP file is corrupted.
Yes.
Did you see it like early in the morning, like you usually do?
First screening.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were like, there was like a good little crowd, like 15 or 20
I
people.
guess
in
for
there.
us, the last sort of weekend of the summer, I buy that.
Yeah, well, the theater operator, like manager person, was just like, well, we haven't been open for 5 months, so please bear with us. And I'm like, okay, I can see that. And then someone else was like, don't you like test these before you get them? Shouldn't you like check and make sure that the file is good? Like, I know that's pretty standard, right? They should be checking the files, like even if you're just scrubbing through them. So what they had to do was they had to check the file in another theater and see if it would run, and it did. But they had to start the movie from the beginning.
They had to? You have
They
to?
had to. I didn't understand how that was possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like with that software, whatever's playing the DCP on their projector, I wonder if they never had a need to start in the middle of a movie, right? Like that wouldn't be your goal, I imagine. So why would you code that in there if it doesn't need to?
Well, they did it as the last attempt to get it in the theater we were, like the first theater we were in.
Yeah.
They tried to do that. We watched them like kind of just fast forward through the movie to that part, and then it died again. And I'm like, so it's possible. They just didn't want to do it because they weren't sure if it was going to still work. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And so when we got to the new theater,
Yep.
they were like, please just try to stay in the same assigned seats that you were in this other theater. And we know this was a little smaller, but try. No one did that except for me. Everyone just kind of bunched together, and I'm like, is this really happening? You all are sitting so close. And one guy sat like right behind me and put up his feet, and I'm like, I was very upset.
Well, so when you got to see the whole movie, was it worth all that trial and tribulation?
No.
Okay. I didn't
It's
think
like-
it was heading in that direction, but you never know.
No, and it was there. I was like, please have just one small anything, just something to redeem this. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I was like, can this get over any faster? I just want to go home. Because at that point, I had been there for an extra like almost 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was burned out. I was burned. I was very burned.
Sounds no good, Joe.
And next week, I'm not going to that theater. Because I already booked my tickets for Tenet.
Okay.
I'm going to the Patriots Place Theater next week, with next Friday with Tanya.
Oh, yes, I think I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah, we saw Love and Mercy there.
Oh, that's right, we did. I think I saw like a Jude Law film where he was a submarine captain.
Oh my
there
God,
as well.
Black Sea.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty okay movie. I like that.
It was sort of okay. Yep. Okay
It
enough.
was like 2.5 stars.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't regret going, but I don't need to go again, and haven't thought of it until this
Since-
very moment right
Yes,
here.
me too.
All right, you ready to go on in?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.